Hello, and welcome to the Off-Meta Umineko Read-Along podcast, the weekly podcast where I guide my friends and first-time readers through my favorite story of all time, the highly acclaimed murder mystery visual novel Umineko When They Cry. We just finished Umineko Episode 3, Banquet of the Golden Witch, so we're going to go look back at the episode as a whole and take a look at some of the community comments and theories. So join us as we open up this message bottle and see what interpretation of the tale lies within. And that's a line that we still don't have quite the context for understanding fully, so that's coming up. We'll know it better soon.
What? What? What?
There's
Okay, sorry. Carry on. Oh my god, what?
Yeah. I'm Kyle J, and joining me on our one-way trip to Rokkenjiima, we have our readers, James Capelli, Hayley, and Becca. Welcome, y'all. So how did you like Episode 3, Banquet of the Golden Witch?
It's the best one yet so far.
Short and sweet.
Was it short?
No, that's you right now. The best one so far.
You called me sweet? Hayley?
The thing that you said.
Blush.
What did I think of Episode 3?
So, while I am a little, I guess I'll say frustrated, that's not really how I feel, but it's just right when you kind of think you get a grasp on, how these characters are developing, Chapter 3 is just all right, forget 80% of what we just went through.
Yeah.
It's not unreliable narrator, it's unreliable, narration, the characters, everything. You can't trust half of what these people have been saying or what their motivations seem to even be. Can we trust that Beatrice really did solve it on her own and therefore gained witch powers? Right now, you can make an argument for anything. But Beatrice especially is just the shit. Is she that immature? Maybe a little, but probably not as much as we saw.
I think that's part of the fun, though, is
oh yeah, that's why it's my favorite so far.
Reversal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
So good.
I'm just really glad that the story is concluded in the way that it has.
Yeah. It's weird that they ended on Episode 3 and then there's just 5 just blank episodes.
I mean, there must be.
Just the music is all we're getting from here on out, right? That's
right?
it.
It's just all of the music we've heard through episodes 1 through 3, split out over 5 more episodes, and also all of the art in one place. That's all it is. That must be it.
Case closed.
Yep. Nailed it.
That's an anime, not a VN. I don't think Hayley knows that anime.
I do not.
It's not worth it. It's one of the longest running anime of all time.
It would be if it was 95% short.
Yes. It's a murder mystery kind of killer of the week kind of show.
Got it.
And it's been going on since 2002? Let's see.
Yeah, it used to be on Adult Swim when I was in middle school.
Mm-hmm. I remember buying the initial DVDs when they first came out in the States.
You're also young.
It started in the first manga came out in 1994.
Wow.
Fucking hell, 30 years.
Rude.
And it's still going. Anyway. One thing you can look at with murder mystery shows, visual novels, whatever, is people get very creative with the various ways you can write other people to murder other people. And that's horror, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit concerning sometimes. The way that we can treat people in fiction and just call it fiction and then that's okay.
I see it as an outlet.
Oh yeah, for sure.
A lot of studies have shown that violent video games is actually therapeutic for most populations, right? If you have aggression, it's better to work it out in a game, and then you have that out, and then you don't act on it in real life. It helps you process emotions and stuff. So maybe the real friendships were the murders we made along the way.
How touching. Well, before we jump into the plot of Episode 3, one of the things we always do in these message bottle segments is go over y'all's favorite and least favorite characters as you see them at this point in the story. So, which of y'all wants to go first to talk about the characters that have how they've gained or gone down in your personal view?
Alrighty, so the way I framed my favorites and least favorites for this chapter are, at this point in the story, who do I want on screen more, and who do I want on screen less? So in no particular order, my top 3 are Ronove, who has just been how do I put this? A gay fabuloso, and I just need more of him. He's just very intriguing, where it's just like he's written in a way that you're supposed to interpret, or seem to interpret, that he doesn't really approve a lot of what happens, but he doesn't necessarily disapprove, and he's just enjoying it, and he's filling his role, and he's just like so calm and collected, which nobody else really is. So it's just a bit of a fresh air that just shows competence. There would not be a red text that says he isn't competent. And even the scenes where like he's with, like, helping out Kanon, right, and they lock eyes and he does nothing. Is that him playing into Beatrice's ruse, or is that him being like, I really don't care and I'm happy to let you humans like have your human moments? That's fine. Or is it part of more of a master plan? I don't know, but I need more of it to find out. Second, big 180 from where chapter 1 ended. Shannon remains in my top 3. She's just been consistently a fucking badass in just sticking to her guns as like who she is as a character, what humanity means to her, and now keeps her calm just as well as Ronove in her own sense. Love to see her growth as a character and what her powers seem to do. She's really cool. She can do better than George, and I want that. But if she wants George, she should get what she deserves, and I'm happy for it. And then number 3 hasn't changed since the start of the show, Beatrice. Still need more of her fucking diabolical. The redemption arc, when I was falling for it, was like, oh, okay, I get it. But there's 5 more chapters. I don't really want a redeemed. Oh, there she is. So she's diabolical, and just I'm fucking here for it. So I want that. Least favorites, still the Purgatory Sisters. I don't give a shit.
They even had like really good moments this episode too.
They were fun, but like they were every time they were on screen, they are upstaged by their foils. In the 1v1, Kyrie did better. Ruse did better. The Chiesh sisters did better. The main one, who's the main one? The oldest sister that gets lots of screen time.
Lucifer.
Yeah, Lucifer. Like she's fine, but I don't sympathize. I don't relate. There's a scene where all her sisters are berating her, and she just joins in as well to kind of take the focus off of her in the moment. It's fine. It's kind of humanizing, but I don't care. They're not engaging at no point, and I'm like, this is a character I want to know more about. Next up is Eva. I enjoyed the whole back and forth between her and this like teenage side of her, like in the internal monologue. But I still lean more towards Team Mystery, and sort of justify that. I see that as her like battling in her inner conscience about what she should be doing, what's right here. I like that, but the prelude of chapter 3, the question mark segment, just a bitch, and yeah, she's turning into that character that you love to hate, but I need a break from her.
I think that's fair.
And I think we're going to get it. I think she'll be around, obviously. I think the focus won't be on her as much. And then next, the character who I think we are going to get more of again is Rosa. Still just a scummy person who hides behind her trauma to justify her actions and being a shit person and a shit parent. And just need less child abuse in my life, Don't we all? Anyway, that's my top and bottom 3, and I hope I get what I want. I won't, but I hope I will. I like to be consistent, even if that makes me somewhat predictable to you. And if you guys don't pick Rosa in your bottom 3, then I will fight. So there you go.
I will say nothing in Capelli's really surprised me either, but we do have a lot of overlap in terms of the favorite category. But this is hard because I like so many of the characters so much, but on like the same level, I only have a couple of really big standout favorites, which are still Beato. She is incredible. Everything that happened with her this episode is something I'm thinking about a lot, especially with the stuff that happens in the beginning of the episode with the flashback and her teacher. So yeah, not surprising at all. Beato been my number one this whole time. She stays my number one. No one is surprised. New favorite entering the story, Ange, or Angie. I don't really know which one's
I believe it is Ange.
Angie.
I can't complain about mispronouncing things. I mispronounce characters' names all the time, so.
I think it does. Yeah, we'll go with Angie. Anyway, I am so excited that she's here, and I'm gonna be really honest. I remember loving her in the anime, but I don't really remember anything that happens in the anime from here on out, to be completely honest with you. So I don't even remember like why I love her. But she's basically like a younger, more disaffected, brattier battler. And I kind of love that.
Spoilers.
I mean, that's all something I would say we've already seen. I don't know. After Angie and Beato, like, those are my top two girls. Everyone else is just like, I like a lot of people a lot, but no particular standouts. Like Kanon and Shannon, I love them forever, probably. I love Shannon's manifestation of her shield that we keep seeing, and Kanon's determination. I mean, he beats at least one 7th stake of purgatory, so we know maybe there's room for growth there. I don't know. I love that he's like a warrior and she's a protector. And then I'm in full agreement with Capelli on Ronove in terms of the, like, what are his motivations? And I feel like I brought this up in an earlier episode where Ronove and Beato kind of act like good cop, bad cop with Battler. And I love his role in that. And he also, when he first shows up and is ostensibly on Beato's side, he's kind of needling her all the time and like quietly subverting her and talking shit about her behind her back. And how much of that is authentic? How much is he acting out of, like, he really does want to fuck with her a little bit versus how much of it is her orders? Yeah, I'm so fascinated. And then I have a feeling Burn Castle will be up there, but we just don't know enough about her yet. So, but yeah, those are the main ones that come to mind. Least favorites, I still just don't like Kinzo, and he's a character where we literally know nothing about his life, almost.
We do know. We know he's a complete piece of shit.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Yeah, he fucking sucks. I'm with you. We only know the broad strokes of his life and generally what happened to the family, and I am still convinced that he was involved somehow with the horrible accident that killed most of his family and put him directly in line for the succession. But I'm not expecting answers to that for like another 3 episodes. So right now, I'm just kind of on the hate and Kinzo train. Kraus is kind of the same way, where I just think he's boring, and he's a bad brother, and he sucks. I don't think he's that interesting yet. We'll see when we get more about his and Natsuhi's backstory, because we still don't know a whole ton about them yet. We know a lot about Natsuhi, but not a lot about him. At least not from his perspective. So. And then, yeah, like, after that, it's like, I don't know, the Chester sisters. I just find them a little bit obnoxious, but I do kind of like their little dynamic link thing. I find pretty much everyone in the series potentially compelling in some way. So I don't have any other specific real dislikes. I think George is fine now. Yeah.
Wow.
Is that because we haven't seen George?
Well, he does go pull Shannon's soul back from hell. So.
I suppose.
Allegedly. Again, we can't trust anything that happens in that half of the story.
If we believe in magic, which I do.
But even still, that could all still just be Beato.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I don't know.
It's written in a way that they can decide what they want it to be in chapter 4.
That's true.
It's Schrodinger's cat.
Well, yes.
Well, that leaves Hayley.
Are you ready?
I said earlier I was surprised to see that you managed to put down 3 things for your favorites. You have them hidden, so we'll see.
Should we start with them?
Sure.
Shall I? In fact, I will reveal my most favorite first, which would be Burnt Castle so far,
Hell yeah.
I think, which is kind of weird, but it is what it is. She is the most interesting to me at the minute, I think. I'm like, I've said this before, like, I'm really curious about her backstory, but I can't put myself through more of what's his name, Rikishi 07's reading. I'm afraid writing, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I'll go and read a summary at some point, because I am really curious to see how that's going to play out, especially as we've learned that is it Lambdadelta's just trying to find a way to trap Burnt Castle, basically, in her own personal hell. So I'm now really rooting for Burnt Castle even more than I was before. So she's my favourite at the minute. My next favourite will not surprise anybody, as in
She's
it
like,
is...
Before you move on, I want to just say, like, it is interesting that right now she's the only person with any witchiness to them that seems to just be a good person.
I don't know if she's going to be a good person.
I mean, her whole thing is she's like, hey, I empathize with what you're going through because I've been through that and I want to help you. To me, that's a good person.
We'll see.
She is very witchy, so there could be so much more going on, yeah.
Yeah, I just got
You got a feeling. You got a feeling on what?
That she's maybe going to have layers. And I think that...
She's an ogre. Yeah.
Maybe. Like, how did she win and become a witch in the first place? They don't appear to have become witches via nice means. Many of them, it seems.
Mm-hmm.
So, we'll see. If she is just, like, super nice, I don't know, maybe that will put me off her. So, my third favorite...
Puts you off her. I love it.
Yeah, my third favorite. The seagulls.
Oh.
What?
Oh my goodness.
I really struggle. I mean, I considered putting Ronove in here, but I just went for the seagulls in the end. Oh, I really just don't see enough of the seagulls. Like, when are they going to cry? I want to know.
Yeah.
They cry a little bit at the end of each episode, but when am I going to get
no
more
one's
seagull?
left alive. You could say that the eagles crying is what kills everybody, ultimately.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So the eagles are not good people.
The seagulls are a sonic weapon, yeah.
Which
so
you're all
in
on. Yeah, exactly.
Is that your scientific explanation for all the deaths? The seagulls sonically killed everyone with their cries.
Yeah.
Maybe the eagles were like nesting in the shrine and the shrine getting destroyed
If you call them eagles, he's too Lord of the Rings pilled.
No, it's because I'm playing a stupid social deception game about being animals. And the eagles on my mind. The seagulls were nesting in the shrine that Shannon destroyed. So now they're up for vengeance because that was their home.
Okay.
I could buy it. Yeah, I could believe it. All right. So, yeah, that's my top 3. Beato for unsurprising reasons. I don't know, man. She's just chaos and I love it. Burnt Castle is intriguing to me. And the seagulls are everybody's, what's the word I'm looking for? Demise? Yeah.
Harbingers?
So, yeah, harbingers of doom.
I do like that, yeah. They're all symbology.
Yeah. All right, so least favorites. So we'll work from my most least favorite is unsurprisingly Beatrice.
Yeah, it seems weirder to say Beatrice when it's Eva Beatrice.
It is, yeah. She didn't deserve it. Obviously, she's just fucking man. What a whiny little child. I hate her. Which is weird because I actually really, I think Maria was probably in my top 3 favorites for the episode 1 But this particular kind of whiny child is really bothering me. She just seems cruel for no reason. Like, she's a child, but I get the impression she's an older child, so she should know slightly better.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, keep interrupting. Go.
Do you, well, because this plays into what I want to know more about why you picked her. Or do you lean more team fantasy or team mystery?
I don't lean.
Okay.
I just don't. I'm just waiting for it to unfold. Like, I truly don't lean one way or the other.
Fully along for the ride.
Yeah, seriously, I am. I don't know. I know that frustrates Kyle that I say that as well, I think. But,
I mean, it doesn't actually frustrate me, because I mean, that is how I read it when I first read it. So
yeah.
Okay. I had follow-up questions if you had one or the other, but I can't follow up with that.
That is the problem. Is it's not the most
Sorry
conversation-starting
you.
opinion.
Yeah. I'm really not on one team or the other. I would be happy for either or both or neither to be the solution. So, okay. Least favorite ever, Beatrice. And then next least favorite is still, sorry, everybody, George. But then my third least favorite, or maybe it's my most least favorite, we could call it, because all I wrote was Ushiramiya. To encompass all of them.
The whole family?
The whole family fucking sucks. Every single one of them. They can all get in the bin. They deserve to die. The seagulls had it right.
Wow.
I'm going to say one Ushiramiya who I don't think deserves it is Jessica. Even Jessica sucks.
She's like not even in this episode.
Yeah. Yeah, that's tough. Maybe not Jessica, and maybe not Maria. No, Maria kind of sucks too.
She
I
does,
like
but
Maria,
she's a
Maria
child,
sucks.
right?
Yeah.
Right. Well, you can give a pass on a child, but otherwise, I completely see your point.
Yeah, maybe not Jessica. Battler is probably actually doesn't deserve the vitriol that I do send his way, but
we need someone in your shoes to throw it at him. We need to have that.
Yeah.
Until he does something that's just like, fucking finally, bro.
And I'm even counting the ones that married in, because like, who would marry into that? Like, you have to be terrible. Even the ones that I like Kyrie.
I could see Kyrie falling for Rudolph.
She has a lot of internalized misogyny. She is not great.
She sure does, and I'm not going to sit here and justify her character after what we learned in this chapter.
Yeah, so all of them.
I still would totally simp for that.
Yeah. I would prefer people with better morals. So
sure, but of the
I'm just
presented,
mad judgmental. So that's why the seagulls are in my top 3, because I ran out of options.
All the goats.
I'm gonna love it when Nanjo ends up top 3. Don't know how it could happen, but I'm gonna love it when it does.
Yeah, I actually considered putting him in there along with Ronove, but I just decided that they weren't really worthy of a top 3 yet.
Exactly.
But the seagulls are.
Is lack of being a shitty person enough to make it up there?
No. No, because Beato's up there. Like, it's okay to be a shitty person so long as, like, I like the way you do it.
Yeah.
I am a judgmental hypocrite, is what I am. So yeah, sorry for not taking anything seriously.
I support everything that Hayley is saying.
Thank you. Somebody has to.
Well, let's go ahead and move on to the plot of episode 3. Actually, before we do that, episode 3 was notoriously changed based on feedback from readers of episode 2 who felt overwhelmed by the overt fantasy elements in that episode. While Rikishi 7 had originally planned to make episode 3 even more confusing and difficult, apparently, he decided to change tack and instead use episode 3 to give readers more hints on how to interpret the story as a mystery. I'm going to go ahead and go over some of those methodologies now, so that as we go back over the plot in episode 3, we can perhaps see some of those earlier events in a different light. The first tool that we learned about in this episode is Hempel's Raven. It doesn't really get used that much this episode, but fundamentally it's about proving something using its contrapositive. However, the big tool that we get in this episode is Virgilia teaching Battler the multiplanar world collapsation technique of Schrodinger's cat box. At its core, it is a lens through which to view any scene in which magic takes place. So long as it doesn't contradict what Battler himself sees when he opens the cat box, the witch's side is allowed to present magical versions of events to the reader. And finally, we're given the concept of magic-resisting toxin to explain why the witch's side can't always just openly use magic. Since humans tend to no longer believe in magic, magic power is severely weakened in their presence. However, by seeding the possibility of the witch in their minds, the amount of magic-resisting toxin that person exudes can be greatly reduced, eventually allowing magic to be openly used in their presence. We also see a great deal of misdirection in this episode. As we find out near the end of this episode, Beatrice is using the quote-unquote North Wind and the Sun strategy to trick Battler into sympathizing with her and accepting her existence in that manner. As we go over the plot of this episode, we'll keep an eye out for moments where we think this ruse to be in effect. Additionally, in the Tea Party, we learn that Beatrice is actually a subordinate of Lambdadelta, and is supposed to be attempting to achieve perfect victory for all eternity. And yet, as Lambdadelta says, Beatrice seems to be acting contradictory to that purpose in this episode, not caring if she wins or loses, using the occasional fake as a misdirect, and making moves hoping for something other than victory are all things she accuses Beatrice of doing in this episode. With these things in mind, let's see if that changes how we view any of the events of episode 3, Banquet of the Golden Witch.
You know, every time you pause, I hear the music that's when you launch the game. That's the menu music. And I know that you play it sometimes in the between parts
The
of the
videos.
podcast. Yeah.
What I hear is that there's seagull sounds constantly in Hayley's head.
Mhm.
I like that my original prediction on how evil Beatrice is was correct. Right, like it's end of our second episode of chapter 3 where we all ended on how is Beatrice evil? Is she not? Ben and I were firmly yes, and you two were firmly not. I think you were kind of trolling, but still was very fitting for when she started the whole redemption arc thing.
Mhm.
But despite that, I'd never been so thoroughly bamboozled by a story before. I bought all of it, hook, line, and sinker. But overall, this chapter has elements making it both my favorite and least favorite so far. I think narratively, this has been the best that this author has yet to give us. But it's tough to be so invested in like 75% of this chapter only to have to be like, is it genuine? Like, do we take anything from this character, from any of the witch side of the story, to be, yes, this is who they are? Does this actually promote the narrative, or does it just promote a gotcha moment? Which, like, the gotcha moments are kind of like fine, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm torn. It's going to be dependent on how it goes from here on out. How does the relationship between Beatrice and Battler evolve from this point? Ange is obviously still there to help progress more of what could be interesting. But yeah. It's tough to be like, okay, do I trust anything of what Beatrice did? Do I trust anything of what Ronove did? Virgilia? What's the deal with Eva Beatrice? Things that'll probably be heavily answered in our first reading of chapter 4. But right now, it's just like, I like how it was done, but I hate how it made me feel because I feel stupid.
Do you think we're actually going to get an evolution of their relationship now? I feel like surely that was like it flatlining with her doing that to him. Like,
No, I think it just really, I think it really sets the stage for how he and his sister are going to team up against her. And I'm for that. I think that's going to be really cool to see this new element added to the story. But like in the context of knowing that the author had a more difficult narrative to sell, similar to chapter 2, I don't think we were going to get this whole gotcha moment at all. And she was just going to be more evil. I think it would have been more of the same. So while I'm very curious to know what the original plan was, I think what he did probably makes it a better story overall. So when we have the full 8 chapters, when we have the full picture, I think it's going to serve the story better. But right now, I'm torn between I fucking love this and I am so frustrated with it. Do you get what I mean?
Yes.
I can at least see where you're coming from, yeah.
That's all I wanted. I'm fascinated by the Team Witch's motivations. Like, what does Beatrice even want? Right? I think like we as readers are inclined to think that she wants to lose to Battler, but I think I'm more of the fan of a theory that Hayley presented way earlier in our podcast that she wants Battler to win. I don't think she necessarily wants Battler to win, or sorry, not win, but she wants to turn him into a witch. This is all a training thing. I do think she wants someone to be introduced as a witch that will be inclined to help her. Whether that's Battler, I don't know. But she does use George to quote unquote use magic here. Why did she do that? Why did she do this whole resurrection thing with him to bring Shannon back? Right? If your Team Mystery, all he did was go to her corpse and then the rest of the family finds him dead with her. If you're Team Fantasy, like, why even bring her back? To me, it's like, what does this family mean in the scope of their magic potential? She even says something like, what else would I expect of the descendants of Kinzo, right? This is really what I should have expected their capability to be. I think she's going to probably target George. Maybe in our next chapter we could even see Jessica tapping into this. I don't think we're going to see Battler tapping into this until maybe the end of chapter 4 at the earliest, if at all. She wants someone on her side, is kind of how I take this to be. Okay. She didn't really care about helping the humans, right? That this is all a ruse, so why even go this far? I think this has got to be her motivation.
Interesting.
I love that you're thinking about it in those terms, that there has to be a motivation.
I think I don't think she started off this whole game with a motivation per se. I think she's kind of been figuring this out. Again, it's going to kind of matter whether or not she really knows how involved Lambdadelta was in this game as a whole before the end of chapter 1. Right? You could see that this is like, oh, this is just the thing that she does, right? As a witch, being around for 1,000 years, tricking humans, capturing them in a endless game, or this is just vengeance for what she was done to her, whatever. Or you could see it as like, nope, now this is a game, so therefore now Lambdadelta is interested, and therefore as the person that was sponsored by her, there is now a whole separate political agenda here. We need more details. We need more backstory to know concretely what's going to happen. But it's interesting all the same. So if she is like trapped under Lambdadelta's heel, she can't get out on her own. Otherwise, everything that we've seen from her as a character tells us that she would have gotten out if she could. She hates being beholden to anybody. She hates being enslaved to anybody. Is that because of what Kinzo did to her, or even before? So many questions that we need more time and more backstory to kind of solve. But that's why I'm kind of thinking along these lines.
I think most people just don't want to be beholden to anybody else, right? Like, it's human nature to want free will.
Absolutely. But when you get somebody who has power, to have this power and then still be restricted can be painful, embarrassing, humiliating. They want to break out. From everything that we've seen of Beatrice, from what's reliable in the story so far, that's what I see. I could even see to the point where she would be like, look, Battler, I have been training you to help me. This is what's happening. But even that's kind of a ruse. That is bait itself, even if there is a semblance of truth to it. Like, I'm surprised that Battler doesn't, like, think back on how she degraded him at the end of chapter 2 a bit more.
Because it turns him off.
Maybe. And like as an adult you'd think of that. But as a teen, you're like, I want to believe in this sort of romanticism because it gets them off, right? Whether it's like as explicit as that may sound, or whether it's as nuanced as you can get for a teenager, you know.
It was a formative moment for him, I think. I think it was the...
It awoke something in him.
It's a core memory now.
Yeah.
It's like the dean in Community when he's like,
Yeah.
I hope this doesn't awaken anything in me. I just like what Hayley said about how it's human nature to not want to be beholden to anyone. When is it still up for debate that witches are human?
I think
true.
if what we've been shown is that they all start as human, like up to a certain limit. I think I said this at the chapter 2 message bottle, is that I think we're gonna figure out or learn the origins of what makes a witch. But until we get to that point, these are all people who started as human, turned into something mystical. And yeah, I think there is going to be a human nature to them as a whole.
I will say I agree with your assessment that I don't think Beato plans or wants to be under Lambdadelta's thumb forever and I think that conversation they have at the end of the episode really drives it home, where Lambdadelta is like, no, you have to keep Burn Castle here forever, which means the unspoken part of that is Beato is stuck with her in there forever. So yes, I definitely believe that she is searching for a way out. Is that way? And I think, I don't even know if she has a clear idea of what that way out is yet. And I think, I don't know, I'm interested to see.
If she hasn't been exploring what the way out is already, she's going to be all in on it now. I think we're going to see chapter 4, she's going to be gunning for a hard set win, which is so antithesis to her nature. That's where Battler and Ange are going to find holes. Yeah, because to ask somebody like this to do what they're not inclined to do, it's like telling a master chess player, to play into that analogy that the story does as a whole, to play openings that they're not comfortable with, that they're not familiar with. They're unlikely to win those games. I think telling Beatrice, you have to concretely and completely win without the flash, without the show of it, she's not going to know how. She's not going to be invested, and it's going to cause her to be distracted, if not antagonistic. And that's going to be the opening for the human side. Or Team Mystery, even.
All right, well, we shall see. Episode 3 begins with Beatrice having a dream/flashback of when she was a child in a mansion that looks very similar to the mansion we later see to be Kuadorian. There she is taught about magic by her predecessor, Beatrice, who we later learn to somehow be related to Kumasawa. The Seven Sisters of Purgatory are torturing Battler as he tries to solve some of the closed rooms in the previous games, even giving the occasional red truth of their own to refute some of his theories. On the game board, we start on the boat headed to Rokkenjiima, where Rudolph and Hideyoshi smoke and talk about their plans to extort Kraus for money. We get a flashback of Eva's childhood, where we can see how Kinzo and Kraus's misogyny shaped Eva's desires to supplant Kraus as the heir to the Ushimiya family. These dreams seem to have manifested a tulpa of Eva's younger self that urges her to hold on to those dreams even as she grows older and vicariously pushes George instead. Back in the present, the cousins are catching up with each other on the beach. Everyone makes fun of Battler of how he used to say such cheesy melodramatic things, and he and Jessica talk about their past and current relationships. As the game proper begins, we get introduced to a new character, Beatrice's demon butler, Ronove. After Maria reads Beatrice's letter at dinner, there is much speculation on the possibility of there being someone else living on the island. In the meta-world, Battler is at first excited at the prospect of a 19th person on the island to pin the murders on, but using Hempel's Raven, Beatrice reminds Battler that all she has to do is disprove the 19th person is the culprit, and he'll be forced to contend with the fact that someone he is close to is a killer. Back on the game board, Rosa finally speaks up about how there was a human woman named Beatrice on this island years ago, but her careless actions accidentally got her killed. Which Beatrice explains that after she granted Kinzo the gold, he had captured her in an attempt to forcibly win her affections. Even after abandoning her body of flesh, Kinzo captured her soul in her homunculus and raised her until she came to be of the same apparent age as she was before. However, after attempting to escape with Rosa and perishing on the rocky shores of Rokkenjiima, she was finally able to regain her memories as a witch. However, even then, she could not escape thanks to the Shinto shrine on the island. Slowly regaining her power, told Kenzo created a revival ceremony that is now being enacted. Beatrice then hits Battler with the red truth he most feared. There are no more than 18 humans on this Rokkenjiima. At midnight, Shannon, Kanon, and Genji are called to Kenzo's study to become the sacrifices of the first Twilight, along with the other servants and Kenzo himself. Kanon attempts to resist, defeating Lucifer in one-on-one combat, but is eventually mercy killed by Genji after Beatrice sicks the rest of the Seven Sisters on him. The Seven Sisters quickly find and dispatch Goda as well, and when they finally find Kumasawa in the garden, she casts off her human guise and reveals herself to be the predecessor Beatrice. After a lengthy magical duel, Beatrice defeats her predecessor with trickery and leaves Ronove to arrange the corpses for the first Twilight. Battler is struggling to maintain his disbelief in magic when he is shown such fantastical scenes.
Did we really only meet Ronove at the beginning of this episode? I feel like he's been around forever. That's crazy.
Yeah, right?
I love him so much. I've gotten instantly attached to him.
Yeah, not a drift video, not there yet.
It shows you the impact he's had on the story, for sure.
Yeah.
He's such a good dynamic to introduce.
Yeah, sure.
I love having a cunty butler around.
Who doesn't? So, reviewing the red text that you mentioned here, that there is no more than 18 humans on this Rokkenjiima. Reviewing, investigating, dissecting that is meaningless until we get Team Battler digging into it more, right? I mentioned this to you before we started recording. Why does she feel the need to specify no more instead of just saying there are 18? Why does she need to specify humans? And why on this Rokkenjiima? Right? I kind of feel like it's a meme for me at this point to mention Team Sci-Fi. But the whole idea that each game is a separate simulation plays into this.
Sure.
Right? Why say on this Rokkenjiima? Like, there's so many things I, as a reader, can dissect and pull apart. But until the narrative side of the story starts looking at that as well, it's pointless for me to keep looking into it. Right? Like, I can say, I see that there are holes available. I see that there's a possibility that we could thread a needle through that and say that there's a problem here. But until the story starts to investigate that, it doesn't matter. And I don't think we're going to get that until the answers are. Whether it's chapter 5, 6, or 7, I don't know.
It's kind of like when Sir Arthur Conan Doyle started getting lazy with Sherlock Holmes, and he would just kind of yada yada some of the explanations, so that you wouldn't be able to piece it together yourself, because all of a sudden Sherlock would show up at the end with a random piece of evidence you didn't know existed. So only he could have solved it anyway.
I don't know how comfortable I am comparing this media to Sherlock Holmes. But I see your point, and I think you're right.
I was joking, but...
Yeah, I know.
Oh,
I don't think this author's at the point where he's bored yet, right? But if you're writing the same character for how many years did the original Sherlock Holmes run before he killed him off? I'm talking even before he brought him back due to popular demand, right? I don't know. I'm more of a fan of these stories that, the author clearly has a concrete vision from start to end, even if things get a little flexible in between.
We've already expressed our distaste for Case Closed.
Yeah, right.
That case definitely isn't closed.
I think it's fun for some people, of course, but I think 1,000+ episodes of Murder Mysteries is there's an overreaching arc. Let's get on with that.
Mm-hmm.
That's what keeps people engaged for 1,000 episodes.
I will say, in regards to this specific red text, my read on this Rokkenjiima, as in the reference to this Rokkenjiima, is because they keep referring to the setups as game boards. So I kind of substitute game board for Rokkenjiima, this game board, this iteration.
Sure.
Which is the simple explanation, but yeah, it's what I assume.
That can absolutely be what they say, right, to Team Battler. But I could also see them be like, haha, you fucking idiot. We were saying this all along, you loser reader. How did you not pick up on this? Which so many VNs will do is they'll place these...
You don't know what you don't know.
Exactly, yeah. You will place these foreshadowing things. That's just you can't pick up on it until we tell you to pick up on it.
Well, I mean, I think you're doing what you should be doing at this point, saying hey, there are holes here, and we'll see if that what goes on with that. That's a place to build a theory.
That is the closest concrete response I've gotten from you that says you guys are on the right track. So thank you, whether you intended it or not.
I'm never going to tell you to not think about things.
It makes for a disinteresting podcast. Therefore, in the Answers arc, I can say that Kyle is not an endless witch.
Who wants theories on their theory podcast? Ew.
Gross.
In the morning, the adults find the closed room chain that contains the sacrifices of the first Twilight. In the meta-world, Battler, still reeling from the blatant magic he's been shown, sulks in the Rose Garden. Predecessor Beatrice, now renamed Virgilia, appears to Battler and begins teaching him about magic, as well as lenses such as the Brawn Tube metaphor and Schrodinger's cat box, through which he can interpret these magical scenes without succumbing to the witch. Now thus empowered, Battler returns and attempts to tackle the closed rooms of the first Twilight, with Virgilia acting as his assistant. Beatrice is eventually convinced to resign the first Twilight by Ronove, rather than respond to Battler's theory that one of the deaths was an accident. Back on the game board, having barricaded themselves in the guest house, the adults have Kyrie take a crack at solving the Epitaph, as the witch requested. She comes up with some interesting theories about the Sweetfish River likely being a metaphor, and the key perhaps being a 6-letter keyword in some sort of word game. In the meta-world, Beatrice complains to Virgilia about her helping Battler too much. Virgilia gives Beatrice the advice that she should think about what her game's win conditions really are, and consider the Aesop's fable, the North Wind and the Sun. Now, in retrospect, we can see this is Virgilia telling Beatrice that she should pretend to be reformed so that Battler will accept her willingly. However, this raises an interesting question about how much of this episode up to this point was a part of that ruse. As we can see in the scene with the Golden Land later, Virgilia is completely on Beatrice's side, attempting to use force to get Battler to sign the contract. Of course, the fact that Battler would likely have signed the contract willingly if they didn't suddenly break character at the last moment, likely on purpose, adds another wrinkle into trying to figure out Beatrice and Virgilia's true motives. Regardless, Virgilia acting as Battler's ally seems to have been a part of the ruse that occurs before the North Wind and the Sun conversation. Therefore, it is quite possible that even parts before that point were a part of the larger trick on Beatrice's part. Given the way that Beatrice acts in the episode, as well as the convenience of an even eviler witch suddenly appearing to help further the Beatrice redemption arc gambit, it is worth questioning everything we've seen from the very start of this episode.
This is the moment we can pinpoint the turn in what is trustworthy in this chapter. Right. The first sentence that you put into this segment of this paragraph that you have edited here, when they start talking about Aesop's fable, right? Up until that point, I'd kind of forgotten about this until you were recapping here. Beatrice does still kind of act a little immature, especially around Virgilia. And I don't know, if it's all a ruse, like all of it, then it feels like they're pandering to us as readers that we, in a way that we can't dissect, which kind of sucks. I'll leave a bookmark there to say it's possible, but I hope not, because that degrades the quality of the VN narrative as a whole. And say up until she gives Beatrice the idea of the North Wind and the Sun, I'm gonna say we can trust these characters as they act. Which, means that she really is immature, she really is uncertain of herself, and what we know at the end of the chapter, how she's on the heel of Lambdadelta, kind of makes some sense.
We'll put a pin in this for Anime Corner, just FYI.
Noted.
Ooh.
We'll put a footnote A here. But, at this point, this is what marks us. I can't trust anything Beatrice says as a character. I can't trust anything Virgilia says as a character. Because from here on out, is Virgilia really Virgilia? Is this all the ruse from Beatrice? What we get in the final segment, the creepy smile of both Beatrice and Virgilia as they're trying to force Battler to sign, I kind of took that as, this is not Virgilia, this is a goat demon disguised as her, forcing what they pushed on Battler to believe to be true.
Kumasawa
done it.
Yeah, I think the Kumasawa, quote-unquote, is not reliable past this, but before this, I think it's genuine. I think it's real. Because it's so needless. Well, if it's needless, they say that Beatrice takes steps she doesn't need to take. And if that's the case, I think in Chapter 4 we'll learn that Virgilia is a complete ruse. Nothing about her was genuine. I think, again, that kind of sucks to the reader because we had this very private flashback between Virgilia and child Beatrice that only we, the readers, would know. Battler doesn't know this. He hasn't shown this, so why even lie about it? I don't know. I just hope there's consistency.
That's fair. I will say that I don't think you are wrong to think about those things, but I will say, don't give up hope that the narrative will give you answers.
Goody!
But also don't hope that the narrative will give you answers.
Yeah.
And that also.
Thankfully, we have 4 people here who are committed to working together to understand the mysteries.
You're counting Hayley? Okay.
I know, right? I was surprised to hear that as well.
Even Hayley, I think of all of us, all the theories that we've propositioned, yours have been the one that I'm like, I fucking see that happen.
Thank you. It's because I'm so not serious that I could write my own fiction.
Back on the game board, after looking something up in an atlas, Eva discovers the key and eventually manages to solve the epitaph and find the gold in some sort of underground bunker. On the way out, Eva bumps into Rosa, who has managed to solve the epitaph herself, only shortly after. After a tense moment, Rosa agrees to back Eva in her bid for the headship so long as she agrees to honor the agreements the siblings had made previously about evenly dispersing the gold and announcing its discovery immediately. Eva agrees with the first part, but convinces Rosa to let her keep the gold a secret until tomorrow, as she figures out how to actually get it off the island without being forced to rely on Kraus. Meanwhile, Evans herself clings to the pile of gold and declares that she refuses to share it with anyone else. Beatrice then appears before Evans and herself and explains to her how, now that she has solved the epitaph, she has inherited not only the headship, but also Beatrice's title and powers as Endless Witch. In a lavish ceremony, Evans herself becomes Eva Beatrice, and Battler and the now renamed Beato watch on and applaud her efforts together.
How did she solve it? I want to know.
Do you remember how a few episodes ago I was like really leaning into solving the epitaph and then I haven't spoken about it for 3 episodes?
Yeah, Hayley, how's that going?
Yeah, how's that going for you?
You know, great. Yeah, I've put that in a small box in the back of my mind and I'll take it out again at some point. Maybe we'll see. Episode 8-ish.
The guy who Kyle says posted on Reddit is like, oh, I solved it because they worked really hard on it. I'm like, fuck you. No, you didn't.
I actually think the last time I was speaking about it, I was probably on the right lines.
I think you probably were as far as you could with the information we've been given, right?
Yeah.
Knowing that the Sweet River is a metaphor, like I really loved when the whole group of adults were like, let's look at the family tree.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's not the answer, but I think it's a step that was needed to get to the right answer. When we figure out what it is, it'll be like, okay, I could see how Eva in this state got there, but we as the reader could not. And I'm okay with that. But fuck that guy on Reddit, okay?
I think that it's, and I know that there's concern from one of our readers that's translating stuff that I might be relying too much on that. But even if I wasn't taking that into consideration, I would still think that it is more to do with like the actual structure of the words and how that they are written in Japanese, and I can't solve it because
In the kanji letters. Yeah, maybe.
Also, let's not forget, doesn't something that Rosa says like tips her off and helps her figure it out too? Because that's part of why Rosa shows up like right after her. She's like,
absolutely.
I gave you the idea.
Yeah, she talks about how there's one part where they use a different phrasing for the city of gold.
Yeah, if it's something like if you take the characters from the Sweet Fish River and then it says go through the middle of it, and then you just take like whatever the middle part of those characters would be to spell something out, like, yeah, we as English speakers would never, ever, ever get that. And it's probably why the translation is spelling out this kanji means this, or I'm not even sure if the alphabet they're using is kanji or an equivalent in Japanese, but my point is, like, yeah, we would never get it.
Mm.
It will be spelled out for us very plainly. I'm confident. I honestly think we'll get it next chapter.
Okay, well.
But yeah,
it's a lot of confidence for answers at the end of the questions arc.
I don't think that's gonna matter in the grand scheme of things. I think the answers arc is gonna be more about this game between the two of them. You know, this mystery versus fantasy. I couldn't even fathom how they're gonna pull out more than double of what we've already gone through to pull out this, to extend the narrative. But they will. I think chapter 4 will continue to give more questions and it will answers and blah, blah, blah. Kyle said chapters 5 and 6 are his favorite, so which means I have high hopes for the questions that chapter 4 is going to give us to really build into that. And I think giving some hints as to the solution to the epitaph is going to be given to us.
Yeah, actually, I'll bring in a community note here. Heath on YouTube said functionally that several people solved the epitaph at around this point, although more commonly by the end of episode 4.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
Hayley, I have hope for you. Tell you what, if I beat you to the solution, you owe me the crispest high five you've ever given in your life, and I'm gonna make it hurt your palm. And I would hate to do that to you, but I wouldn't hate to do that to you. So you don't wanna
I'm not okay with that.
All right, well then you better beat me to it.
No, I'm not okay with that. Like, I don't like high fives that hurt. Like, I do not consent.
You better beat me to it.
Okay. I do not consent, though, even if I don't beat you to it.
Well,
So,
you know,
and
we'll
then I'll
record it
foul
and
charge you for assault.
we'll put it on Patreon. You
What?
know, if you make money off of it, you can't be mad.
I absolutely can.
Nah. I invoke white male privilege.
Yeah, that's gonna go over real well in court.
It actually will this day and age,
Really
but let's
will.
not get into that as a conversation topic.
Kyle, pivot.
yeah, let's move
You're
on,
losing
Shay.
control, Kyle. I'm a rogue agent.
I'll assert my golden privilege and force us to return to the plot of the story.
I see what you did there. I actually don't, but I do see what you will eventually have done.
Yeah. That maybe will make sense by the end of this. I can make all sorts of bad jokes that don't make any fucking sense. I'll just be like, I guess that's something that will make sense later on. I'll start throwing in complete garbage to confuse you. Returning to the guest house, Eva, still feeling unwell, retreats to her room with Hideyoshi to rest. Meanwhile, Maria convinces Rosa to take her out to go check on her rose in the rose garden. There, the two of them are confronted by a person who at first seems to be Eva, but reveals herself to be Eva Beatrice, much to Maria's delight. Eva Beatrice uses her newly acquired endless magic to torture and kill Rosa over and over again. Battler's disgusted by Beato's genuine appreciation of this gruesome spectacle, and, chastened, steps in to kill Maria and Rosa herself in a much more mundane manner. Eva Beatrice is already beginning to chafe at Beato's restrictions of her fun. Once the bodies are discovered, Battler is easily able to pin the crime on any of the remaining survivors, but refuses to continue to engage with Beato, a monster who delights in pointless cruelty, in her game. Beato has Ronove take her place, and goes to inform Eva Beatrice of the existence of magic-resisting toxin. However, her further attempts at assistance are rebuked by Eva Beatrice, causing Beato to sulk even more. Rudolph, Kyrie, and Hideyoshi head to the mansion to gather food, and are attacked by Eva Beatrice. Rudolph manages to fight off Belphegor of Sloth of the Seven Sisters of Purgatory, and Kyrie reveals her deep, painful envy of Battler's mother, Osamu, in order to defeat Leviathan of Envy. However, both are instantly killed once Eva Beatrice manages to summon the Chester Sisters, bunny girls of Pendragon's memorial troops, who fire a golden longbow that is impossible to dodge or block. When Beato tries to intervene in Eva Beatrice's toying with Rudolph and Kyrie's corpses, Eva Beatrice basically tells her predecessor to fuck off, before she sends the Chester Sisters after her. Fleeing back to the Rose Garden, Beato is once again reminded by Virgilia of the North Wind and Sun strategy, and that she should attempt to reinvent herself so that Battler might accept her. Now, of course, in retrospect, the North Wind and the Sun strategy has likely already been in the works, given how much setup has been done to seed Beato's redemption arc, which makes the second mention of this even more suspicious. Back in the mansion, Hideyoshi interrupts Eva Beatrice playing with Rudolph and Kyrie's corpses, and she kills him in her annoyance.
That's just like peak why Eva Beatrice, even though she's a child, is worse than Maria.
Mm-hmm.
Because who throws a straw up and then murders somebody as a result? Like, what? It's a bit extreme. Over the top much? Ever? You good?
I mean, Hideyoshi was physically assaulting her, so, I mean, you could maybe make the case for self-defense.
Yeah, I suppose. Okay, Kyle. God.
I'll dispute that. In a court of law, maybe, but in a court of ethics, fuck no. You just murdered somebody. Like any assault you want.
Wow, I didn't know we were defending battery of women here.
If they're a fucking mass murderer, all right, I don't care what your gender is. I think the point is, like, if you go team fantasy, it is how it presents. But if you go team mystery, to him, this is his wife going insane with murder. And he's like, this isn't what we agreed upon. What are you doing? And she goes insane and kills him.
Possible.
That's how I would interpret that.
If Eva Beatrice was in the cell block tango, what noise would she make for when she killed Hideyoshi?
Cell block tango? You lost me.
Yeah, I do not know that
Oh
reference,
my
sorry.
god, guys! The cell block tango from Chicago. It's a song about all of the women talking about how they murdered their husbands.
Oh, okay. Yes, I do remember
He
that.
ran into my knife.
Yes, exactly that. Oh, never mind. None of you are cultured.
I just referenced it. It's been a long time since I've watched Chicago, okay?
That joke was so wasted on all of you.
Yes, it was. Yes, you deserve better, Becca. I'm sorry, I will never be able to bring that.
I'm agreeing. I'm cultured. I want to be in. I'm in the jokes. I'm a big man.
Anyway, sorry.
I forgive you.
When Eva eventually wakes up in the guest house and discovers that Hideyoshi is not with her, as he had promised, and is now gone for longer than expected, she leads a party to the mansion to attempt to help him. However, when they arrive, he, Rudolph, and Kyrie are already dead. Ronove convinces Battler to let Beatrice return, and Battler asserts that until Beato learns what it truly means to be a witch, she lacks the qualifications to be his opponent in this game. Back in the guest house, George, in his grief, excuses himself to the hall, where he encounters Beato, who offers to use her magic to revive Shannon for him. They float into the night and into the mansion, avoiding detection by Eva Beatrice thanks to Ronove's deception. Eva Beatrice then takes the moment that Eva leaves the lobby to have the Chester sisters kill Kraus and Natsuhi and drag their bodies out of the guest house. In the parlor, Beato uses the immense magic power produced by George's love for Shannon to power her resurrection spell to call Shannon back from the land of the dead. This exhausts Beato, who had lost most of her magic once Eva Beatrice inherited the title of Endless Witch. The two lovers' reunion is short-lived, as Eva Beatrice, on discovering that her predecessor has interfered with the resurrection ritual by reviving one of the previous sacrifices, quickly kills George and Shannon. Beato is only able to avoid being killed herself as a result of Virgilia sacrificing herself in her place. When Eva discovers that George is missing, in addition to Kraus and Natsuhi, she leads the survivors out of the mansion searching for them. They find Kraus and Natsuhi's corpse in the gazebo, and eventually George in the parlor. On the parlor door, they also find that someone has written the numbers 07151129 in red, similar to the magic circles that had appeared earlier. Battler suggests that the number might be two dates, as 0715 is his birthday. However, no one else can find any significance in 1129 as a date.
Is that Shannon's birthday?
They say that it is none of the birthdays of the servants as far as they know.
Or the family, and that includes Ange.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why, our leading theory is that it's either Beatrice or Kyrie's unborn child.
But Kyrie's unborn child has Battler's birthday, so...
Was it the same day? Because they weren't born. We don't know exactly. That means Rudolph got busy on the same day, right?
Kyrie says that by a sheer fate, they had the same due date.
All right, well then Beatrice's... Man, then maybe it's 2 dates within the same person's lifespan that are important.
Good.
1129 is when Battler ascends to become next Golden Witch. Yeah.
But they're trapped in October.
For now.
Yeah, but how many times have they gone through this?
And also Ange has escaped the loop, so maybe there's 1129 in the future.
What date did she escape the loop?
She didn't enter the loop. She never went to Rokkenjiima.
Until now. And this was also the number that was, according to the character bios, was the key to a miniature golden land. Whatever the fuck that means.
Is that like a breed of dog?
Probably, yeah.
Miniature golden land? Sounds like a breed of dog. I have a pug, so I'm really happy that a pug won Best in Show for the dog show, by the way.
I'm sure you are.
Oh, really?
Yeah, really important things. I just want everybody to know that. The pug hasn't won since the first year of it or something like that. So
Eva and Jessica eventually get into a scuffle, and Jessica gets blinded when Eva's gun supposedly goes off by accident. Eva runs into the hall, and Battler chases after her, leaving Dr. Nanjo to treat Jessica's wounds in the servant room. On leaving to go check on Eva, however, Dr. Nanjo is killed by Eva Beatrice. Jessica, unable to see anything, stumbles around in terror until Beato summons Kanon's spirits to guide her to safety in the parlor. Using the last of her magic to seal the door, Beato is then set upon by Eva Beatrice, who tortures her with golden stitches through the heart, trying to get her to abandon the two reunited lovers. However, Beato's sacrifice empowers her with true endless magic, and Eva Beatrice becomes unable to kill her until the lovers' reunion is complete.
In the moment of this, I was very much like, look at Beatrice, go! And after the fact, I'm like, God damn you and your lies. It makes me wonder how powerful Eva Beatrice even is, right? Could she actually have done this to Beatrice in a weakened state, or no? Beatrice let this happen for the sake of the narrative, for the sake of fooling Battler, which I heavily believe that's what it is. I think Eva Beatrice dances to everything Beato wanted. The only thing that maybe implies otherwise is the introduction of the Chia-Sitter sisters. The idea that Beato couldn't have brought them about herself.
Who's to say that she didn't summon them and make Eva Beatrice? think that she's the one who did it.
Yep.
Sure as possible. Like the start of the chapter really leads to believe that she's going to be more powerful. That's why Ronove is a factor now.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if it was all part of Beato's plan.
Yeah.
I think the ruse here is that Beato has secretly had access to her entire power the whole time and has been pretending like she doesn't. So it's kind of like how you said earlier, is George really the one that brings Shannon back, or is that all just Beato and she's pretending like George is being useful to her?
When you say the whole time, do you mean specifically chapter 3, or do you mean like the entire narrative up to
Episode
this
3.
point?
Yeah.
Okay.
Episode 3. As she's been putting on this ruse that she's lost her power. Since Ava Beatrice ascends, essentially.
Mm-hmm. I think it's also worth considering what these things might mean from a team mystery perspective, right? Because there's a lot of stuff here that it all at least tracks fantasy wise, but from mystery side, like it doesn't really have anything that that obviously makes sense here. So at some point, it's probably worth taking a look at these things as well.
Yeah, I have ideas for how they might make sense mystery-wise, but I want us to talk about the community.
Kyle, I would trust you, but you are a self-proclaimed witch, so I can't do it.
I am. Yeah. And maybe someday that will make sense.
Maybe someday I will hope that your heart is sewn with golden thread.
Well, we have a community theory about actually why I can call myself an endless witch. We can get to that right now if you'd like.
Wait,
Go for
really?
Let's do it.
Please.
Let's do
Oh
it.
my god. How did I miss that?
This was Jules on Discord.
Classic Jules.
Said, I think there's a possibility that the notion of a witch and its powers actually come down to narrative perspective. For instance, witches have the ability to influence the perception of the viewer that is watching, in Meta Battler. By showing various perspectives, the witch can control what something might look like from any person's viewpoint, including perhaps the way that Maria might imagine a witch fight to look. Controlling the narrative may also be how these witches fight each other to show how something could easily be done magically. On a meta note, this could be the reason why Kyle is called an endless witch. This also helps explain a few other parts like needing someone to believe or think a certain way. If you think about something magical, your mind may then think of further magical explanations, which, by using the witch narrative, magic begins to exist. It also helps with my previous thought that the laughs were basically audience members of the shared narrative. That ties into a theory that we had from episode 2.
Jules, I think you're onto that. 4, I think you're onto something.
If I don't listen to your podcast as a participant, Kyle, you have no power over me, which means from my perspective, you are not a witch. I'm done. I'm out. See you guys later.
Oh, both of them?
You're welcome to quit any time.
Yeah, the story's over. Thanks, Capelli, for validating me. I really thought that would make him come back.
No, he's gone forever.
Oh, I love it. Oh,
I just like thinking about witches and magic.
yeah.
I actually kind of like this theory because it ties in my read on a fantasy piece of it that I was planning to talk about when we get later in the summary. Because they're saying, let me make sure I understand this correctly, that like the way the witches fight each other is by the spin that they themselves put on the narrative and what the iteration of the mystery is.
Yes, largely, yeah.
Okay, yes. Then I think this will dovetail with my part of my magical theory later. I think it's like two sides of the same coin.
It's just a writer's room, isn't it? That's what the witches, the coaching room or whatever that is that they meet in. It's just a writer's room. They're like, no, this is how it goes. No, this is how it goes.
Beatrice is just an underpaid intern the whole time.
All right, welcome back, Capelli. I'm glad you decided to continue the podcast. Nope, he's gone again. Just as Eva Beatrice is about to finally kill Beato, Battler pulls Eva Beatrice into the meta world. Declaring her his new opponent, he then forces this confused new witch to take Beato's place in their game, and quickly forces through several victories while she is still confused about what is going on. However, once she gets her footing, Eva Beatrice counterattacks by claiming that she has used her magic to make Kyrie go to the mansion, even though she didn't think it was necessary to get food. Battler struggles to put up a fight because the situation has been rigged to make it impossible for him to solve this without Beato's help. However, once Battler uses the solution fed to him by the play-acting Beato, Eva Beatrice unleashes a barrage of red truths that leave Battler with absolutely no idea of how to refute them. Seeing the Battler has given up, Beato graciously steps in to refute Eva Beatrice's red by denying the existence of witches with her own red truth. However, she manages to convince Battler to plug his ears while she does so we have no idea if this is actually what she does. Once the use of red truth to deny the witches supposedly blows away both witches, Battler seems to revive Beato with his personal belief in her. Suddenly finding himself in the mansion surrounded by all of their friends and family, Battler and Beato are asked by Kinzo and Virgilia to sign a contract asserting the existence of witches. However, just as Battler is about to do so, Beato and Virgilia break character and make it clear that this has all been a ruse. Simultaneously, Battler's sister Ange arrives on the scene from the future to attempt to assist him in his battle against the witch.
What a fucking sentence. Alright? Like, you tell me that's where the story's going when we started, I would have been like, I'm out. This is too much for me.
Time travel exists, though. There's your sci-fi element, Capelli.
Yeah.
I don't know if sci-fi necessarily implies that it needs to get into time travel. Yeah, sure, it plays into what I'm saying here. But my whole thing of sci-fi is like, this is all an illusion. So it's not real time travel. Sorry, not illusion. It's all a simulation.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not real time travel.
Hayley's opinion is that it's an illusion.
Yes.
Sure. And she is welcome to that belief. But I'm going to ride the sci-fi train until it's proven otherwise.
I think that's fair. I think in the upcoming episode, we're going to get a lot more
Sci-fi.
of Ange, obviously. Yeah, a lot of sci-fi. And I think we'll get to see a lot more of kind of like the why of this, because this is a very strange narrative twist. So
Cool.
next episode, we'll definitely delve into the why of it. In the Tea Party segment, we at first see some playful banter between Beatrice, Berncastle, and Lambdadelta. However, as soon as Berncastle leaves, Lambda reveals her true face. She begins berating Beatrice for fooling around in the last game, not even trying to win. Apparently, Lambdadelta is the one who granted Beatrice the status of witch in the first place, in return for being able to use her perfect game board. She says that Beatrice's goal is not to play the game with Battler for Berncastle's amusement, but to serve as an undefeatable cage that will trap Berncastle here forever. And should Beatrice ever forget that fact and once again try for any other outcome other than absolute victory, Lambdadelta will find the worst possible fragment to seal Beatrice in for all eternity. Given that in the last scene, we prospectively see Lambdadelta's true intentions and the explicit pressure she is putting on Beatrice on how to act in this game, we could perhaps use this as a lens to try and interpret some of Beatrice's true intentions.
Here's one I want to take a very quick poll. And when I say quick poll, I say like just a simple yes or no, or an unsure if you think it's complicated. Do we think Ava Beatrice is going to be sticking around past this episode?
No.
I hope not.
Might be wishful.
I think we will see her, and I don't like what that means for the greater narrative.
I have a theory, and this is the theory that I think dovetails with the mystery read of this earlier. Because we get Lambdadelta nominating her as a witch, she says that she is Lambdadelta's nomination to become Beatrice. And Berncastle's nomination to become Beatrice is Ange, who has just entered the game. I have a feeling that Ava Beatrice will be sticking around. And I think that if we're thinking about that as the flip side, the mystery read of Jules' theory, where if the way the witches are fighting each other is the way they change the narrative, then that is how they're changing the narrative, is by picking their pieces.
Yeah.
And it also makes sense from a perspective, if we're looking at it from the future, it's Eva's perspective of what happened versus Angie's perspective of what happened.
Yeah.
We shall see. But that is a very interesting theory. In the question mark segment, I have to get all 4 question marks in or they get mad at me.
Mm-hmm.
We see the world 12 years in the future, where a teenage Ange confronts the sole survivor of the Rokkenjiima incident, Urshirima Eva. Eva's heart has become blackened over the years of being suspected of being the culprit of that incident, and is now dying of an incurable disease. Ange has spent her entire life in elite private all-girl boarding schools, and has never had a single friend. The two have so much animosity for each other that Eva delights in deciding how best to continue to torment Ange after she dies. She decides that the best way to do so is to leave Ange the entirety of the cursed fortune, as well as the title of Golden Witch Beatrice. While Ange has long since considered herself a witch, she cares nothing about the gold or the headship, only the truth of what happened on that 2-day period. However, that is the one thing that Eva plans to take with her to hell. Ange then heads to the roof, where she stands on the edge staring out at the night sky. She wonders if finding the truth would possibly grant her the miracle of having even just one member of her family return to her. And just as she is about to jump, Berncastle appears and offers to help her find that world, if Ange will become her piece and help her defeat the Beatrice of 1986. With a Damane Zenzen Dame of her own, and a See You Again in English, Ange agrees and follows Berncastle into the night sky. And that is the end of Episode 3, Banquet of the Golden Witch.
I love that she does Battler's little weird sayings. I do love that so
Having
much.
not known him for like since she was what, like 5 years old, 6 years old.
6.
Crazy.
Mhm.
Yeah. Damane Zenzen Dame.
Yeah, it's very cute.
Yeah, if we have a brief moment for an anime corner, that actually segues nicely because hearing her say it over and over, you hear that phrase literally like 3 times in that episode. And the last one is when that's the last scene of the last episode I watched, because that's how far we've read, is her saying that and jumping off the roof. It's so cute. See you again. Oh, wait. Hayley, do you want to do the theme song?
Becca's Anime Corner.
Thank you. It needs a little rim shot at the end, a little percussion
Little.
punctuation. Anyway, so I just wanted to take a brief moment here. I have officially caught up on watching the Umineko anime up to, I think in the VN it's only 3.6, but in the anime they go up to 3.7. Because it just gets too involved for them to condense it to 6 episodes, I guess. But until very recently, until the last 3 or 4 episodes, there have not been much variation in the translation from VN to anime. But recently, certain things have been omitted or, just omitted or not touched on that I thought were interesting and wanted to bring up as potential food for thought. So one of the most important things I noticed is the North Wind and the Sun story is not brought up to Beato in the anime until after Rudolph and Kyrie are murdered. Virgilia is the one that brings it up to her, but in the VN, it is so much earlier in the episode. And so
Yeah.
I wonder what that means. If it's and it's like, how much of this is a little bit of laziness on the part of the adaptation, or would this inform anything? Don't really know, but thought that was interesting.
Yeah, the adaptation is notorious for having problems. So I don't know if it necessarily means anything, but it is interesting.
It is interesting.
I'm going to say you mean everything, like I do with other things that mean nothing.
We're connecting the dots that don't exist.
And they are not the same shape. In fact, one is a square.
And the other one's a butterfly. It's already gone.
It's a draw by numbers, but a lot of the numbers are like optional. It's like a branching path. So by the end, you're going to be able to say, oh, it could be Team Fantasy, or no, it could be Team Mystery. And the game's going to let you choose as a viewer who spent 120 hours reading this. We're not going to give you a concrete story. It's how did you draw the picture? What do you want?
Another thing that I thought was really interesting in the anime, and I think I just want to speak to how good I think the visual novel is compared to the anime here, because when Ava Beatrice does her ultimate Red Truth Web, her attack on Battler, where in the VN it is so evocative, it's just like she's drilling him into the ground. Every time one of those red truths appears, like a gunshot, she's just like wrapping him up and totally wrecking his shit with every sentence she says. In the anime, she doesn't say every single red truth about how every individual person is dead.
Really?
The only thing she says is that only Jessica, Ava, and Battler are still alive. But she doesn't go one by one and saying everyone else is dead.
Wow.
Man, that's a pretty big omission.
Which takes a lot of the oomph out of it. Yeah. That's the other thing.
What does the anime do to portray the red text?
I actually like it visually. It's the whole screen gets tinted like red, and you get this glowing red Japanese text that floats in and like swirls around them.
All right, that's exactly how they thought they were going to do it. Just wanted to be sure.
Man, I kind of... Capelli, you saying that they're going to leave it up to us to decide. I actually think you might be right on the money there.
Yep.
I think it's going to give us some solving bits, but ultimately we can choose. Which makes me really excited for the end, because I've already decided to choose what the end is anyway.
Yeah, the ending is now. You've already said that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think the game's giving us a lot of tools for how we can interpret what the reality is, but it's not giving us anything concrete. I think it serves the story best to let that be a redundant mystery throughout. Like, what do you believe? Who's in the right?
Yeah, and I wonder if that's why the anime leaves stuff out, Becca, because it just doesn't.
Yeah,
Yeah, and they also never get to adapt the answer arcs.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. What a shame.
like Kyle said, I know that people don't think that this is a super faithful adaptation, and also, it doesn't adapt the second half of it. So, who knows? All of this is probably pointless. It's just, I'm just enjoying noticing things.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, that's how I experienced the story first. Is I watched the anime and I was like, oh, there's something here. There's something definitely here that is worth exploring further.
Exactly why I jumped at the chance to do this podcast.
Yeah, I'm glad you.
Says the person who joined in chapter 2.
I'm sorry, I have a life.
Not anymore, you know.
Not anymore. Okay, and then the other the other fun thing, I'll have to post some of these screenshots in the Discord so that the rest of the community can see them, because I've shared a few of them in our
Has a life.
group chat. That was so delayed.
So delayed.
That was so
Go on,
delayed.
then, please.
We are past this, Capelli. Anyway. It is just so wild watching this show, because one minute you're watching this crazy, impressive, glowing, like, witch tower battle with giant golems hurling glowing spears through Virgilia and all this stuff. And that shit's really cool. And then, like, 10 minutes later in the same episode, you have, like, shrunken head Rudolph, because the proportions in the frame are off, because the perspective is weird. And then you have other shots where they're doing a really cool, like, wide lens effect on people that is extremely purposeful and does cool stuff. I don't know. It just drives me crazy. The quality is, like, so all over the place.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the biggest complaints, is that like the animation sometimes is terrible. And I'll put some images up on the screen of what we're talking about, because yeah, it's pretty atrocious. But I mean, I give them some slack, because especially nowadays we know a lot more about how crappy the anime industry is, especially for the people who are working on these things. So yeah, I think from a modern perspective, I don't blame them as much, because I'm sure they were given no time to work on this. They did do a great job with the witch fight and stuff. So I'm sure they just didn't have the time to make the other parts as high quality.
It's very clear where they tried to focus their energy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But that stuff does look cool as fuck. So, and then the anime just does a lot of yada yadaing when we get to this point, and like certain things, like Rosa doesn't have a conversation with Ava that tips her off on where to look on how to solve the thing. Rosa just ends up showing up a minute after her because she also solved it. That's pretty much the end of Anime Corner. I think the only other major difference is I think the visual novel is just clearly better. Not that anyone was asking for that opinion. It seems like it's the only opinion.
It's certainly shorter. That is the benefit of it.
When Ange is introduced in the anime, when she shows up, she immediately starts like running down the stairs, and she kicks like 5 goat men in the face like right away, which
That's great.
Excellent.
While is very cool, I kind of like it in the VN where she just like kind of lands and stands there stock still staring everybody down, because that's a power move. That's pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm. And then she tanks a purple lightning bolt too.
Mm-hmm. Right. All she has to do is stand there and be like, "You can't affect me."
What dude?
So that's been Becca's Anime Corner. Thanks for listening.
Anime Corner. Thanks for tuning in.
Well, so that concludes the summary of episode 3. But what we're really here for in these message bottle episodes is also to talk about what the community has brought up and brought to our attention. And so let's go through some of the comments that have been left on our YouTube videos, as well as in the off-meta Discord. We have plenty of conversations that happen there that are very fun and interesting. From episode 3.1, we have Arksol on Discord, who has a theory about just kind of like the whole of the story. Battler didn't die, and Beatrice is someone trying to jog his memory with what-ifs to try and see if the only surviving witness would remember who caused the massacre.
Dude! Wait! No, but I love that. If there was something mystery.
I love this too.
Great. They've broken Hayley.
What?
They've broken her brain with the theory.
No,
No,
this
no.
comment has broken
This is
you.
wonderful. I love it. I'm here for all of it. That's the problem, right? I think this is great. I actually genuinely love this. This is a mystery.
Yeah, this is a really interesting out there theory.
It's kind of a very, it's like, sorry, I relate everything to movies and TV shows, but it's like so weird. That was on Disney Channel. Anybody remember that?
No.
Yeah.
Can't say I do.
Never mind. Cut this out, Kyle.
You really do deserve better.
Our viewers are the better, though,
Yeah.
so it's important that you still say these things.
Yeah, it's true. Somebody will relate. In fact, most people might. We're just crap.
Another comment that we got on the Discord, this one from Heath. On the Ryukishi was a social worker thing. It has been brought up a few times. I think it's worth talking about it. As far as I can tell, searching the internet, despite what the English fandom always says, he wasn't much of a social worker as much as he was a civil servant. It was a job he found as he was struggling to enter the video game industry, so the impression I got was that he was more of a desk jockey or something of the sorts. However, from the commentary he made in some of his works and other stuff I've read, I think his position was likely in a child protection agency or something similar. Probably a very menial job answering phone calls or something, but still a place where he got a lot of contact with stories of abuse, neglect, etc. So I think the Phantom often overstates his experience on the subject. Again, I'm pretty sure it's a very minor job. I do think he has a lot of experience on the subject. Likely not actually handling cases, but still being close enough to hear stories firsthand.
I think it's easy to make that assumption now when we don't have resolution to how these relationships are going to develop. If this is the extent of like, child relationships in this story were all bad and they're not going to get resolution with their guardians, then yeah. But if they do, I would hope it would be like the guy did at least some research to kind of see like what does it take for these sort of relationships to mend and amend.
Oh, sure.
But time will
Yeah, I
tell.
mean, I'm not saying there's no research, and I'm just saying that, yeah, like, it is a thing that is said often that Ryukishi was a social worker. Yeah, apparently, based on what they're saying, that it wasn't specifically a social worker so much as they worked in an office like that and did hear about those kinds of things. Not necessarily that they were specifically a social worker, which is good to know, because there is a difference.
Yeah, I appreciate Heath sharing that with us because
Yeah.
it does make me see things in a slightly different light. Like, I had a job, one job, I think it was one, might have been two jobs actually. Yes, I was fired from one, where it was so I was a support worker, so not a social worker per se, but very close to the social work sphere. And so that kind of gives me a lot more context as to how I should be viewing the things that the author says in this. It's, yeah, that's great. And I actually worked directly with clients as well. I just wasn't specifically a social worker.
Right. Yeah, so it's possible that is more along the lines of what Ryukishi was doing. It's just that there is a distinction between being literally a social worker and working in the office that does those kinds of things.
Yeah, definitely.
So, good to know.
I think it's important to remember in terms of stories that touch heavily on stuff like this and stories of abuse and assault and anything else, is especially when they're portrayed in such a matter-of-fact way. I feel like in movies and TV shows as well, it's usually about the creator trying to reckon with that behavior and understand why that kind of stuff happens. And so him having that kind of job would really makes a lot of sense. I do like seeing it portrayed in a way where we get all these different facets of it.
Yeah, for sure. I wonder, it makes me more curious about who the author is as a person to know this, to know that maybe they were adjacent to the social work sphere rather than embedded within it and, you know, dealing with emergency situations and so on. And I mean, yeah, I dealt with a couple of my own emergency situations which were traumatizing in their own way. So I understand how even just being close to it can impact you and why he would potentially write about that extensively. Like, to Becca's point, like, it may well be a way of him dealing with his own feelings around it.
Yeah. I will say there's in Higurashi, it kind of goes a little bit more into the dealing with things with a social worker kind of perspective. I'm trying to describe it. And the official channels for dealing with child abuse is kind of a thing that gets brought up in Higurashi. So definitely drawing from from that expertise in that one for sure.
Yeah. And you can learn a lot just being adjacent to it without actually being the social worker. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's definitely a lot of critique of that system as well.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like there were all good outcomes. I mean, just based on the kind of story we're reading now, you don't get the impression that...
Yeah, like Capelli's comment about us having an amendment or a fixing of those relationships. I don't think we're gonna at all, honestly.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have like people sort of like connect over their relative grief. I wouldn't say shared grief, and that's gonna be how relationships like progress. Like I don't think Kinzo is going to reflect and learn and reconcile with his kids, right? I don't think that's where the narrative is going on, like on that sense. But
well, on that note, we have a comment on YouTube from Jillian K. Last episode I wondered if Beato's story about Kuadorian would make them dislike Kinzo more, and went, nah, their opinion about him probably can't get lower. Clearly I underestimated the readers. I'm really interested to see if V's Brontube explanation changes the way anyone theorizes, or if they stick with their current track.
Oh, I would love to hear your follow-up on that, Jillian, about our continued theories in particular. But yeah, man, the depth of my hatred knows no bounds.
Kinzo sucks forever.
We have another comment from Jules on Discord, this time about the Epitaph. The Sweetfish River from the Epitaph actually had me thinking originally of Taiyaki the first time I heard it. Maybe there's some merit to that, like a street vendor thoroughfare where Taiyaki was popular.
I like that as well. I originally thought Taiyaki when I first heard the Sweetfish River thing as well. And
maybe...
Yeah, I've never heard the term sweetfish. So
maybe I missed the part where Kinzo brought in a bunch of fish vendors onto the island.
Ah.
Wait, he has an annual fish fair on Rokkenjiima, and we're about to find out about it in episode 4.
Yeah. That's episode 4 is all about.
Fish market. It's like those towns in, I'm going to say Washington, the state, for people that are not US based, Washington state, where they have like a salmon festival, which I've been to, and I'm only saying only Washington because I've been to one there specifically. So Rokkenjiima has its own like salmon breeding festival thing where people go and eat fish.
Well, it'd be mackerel,
It'd be mackerel, yeah. Or whatever the sweet fish is. I can't remember. I feel like I looked this up at one point, what the actual fish was.
We don't look things up on this podcast.
we did look up whether or not mackerel was a sweet fish, and it is not, I believe.
It is a specific... Oh, damn it. I'm going to have to check again now. Thanks, Jules.
Heath on Discord wrote, one thing about Ronove's last name is that in Japanese, it's transcribed based on the classic Latin pronunciation. That is to say, the V is more pronounced as a U or a W, really. So that makes it even more similar to Ronove Genji's surname. So
it's the same name.
Yeah, literally it's just Ronove on both ends. So.
Oh, okay.
I didn't think about it until I saw this comment, but I was like, of course, especially if they're doing it based... Like, all these characters are based on Dante, right? Like, Italian, Latin.
A lot of them are,
So, I didn't connect the dots until I saw this comment, but I was like, of course.
Huh.
Winnie Witty Wiki.
Magus Pones 2 on YouTube.
What a username!
Yep.
It's so on brand. Magic. I guess they're on Team Magic. You're going to tell us.
They have a comment talking about the episode where we were kind of complaining about how the vagueness of the way that Eva was speaking about, or they were talking about Eva's like finding of the gold and the location it was in, how they were kept using these vague expressions like the place she was thinking of and those kind of things. Apparently that is more of a quirk of Japanese, because Japanese tends to omit a lot of words because it's assumed the listener understands the implied subject. So when you see translations like he's using that power, it's kind of a concession to English speakers because the Japanese translation usually just says, I see he's using that. And translators usually insert what they're talking about to give proper context in a way that makes more sense to an English speaker. So, yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, I see that so much in anime slash manga slash Japanese game translations. Is that term like that? You know, to the point where it's almost a trope. But I'm to the point where it's like this is just the translation thing. It's just easier to let it be a little redundant over the medium.
The thing I notice it being used for the most in this is that person. They refer to everyone as like that person, that child.
Mm-hmm.
Virgilia calls Beatrice that child to Battler at one point.
That's good to know. I love that the community here that's listening to this. Thank you for teaching us things every day. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Arkzal on Discord says, for some reason, visual novels really love Schrodinger's cat, huh? And yes, they do.
Wait, really? This is my first CN, so...
Yeah, it's like, you're probably talking about, it gets used a lot, because it's very much like a pop psychology, pop science kind of a term. Like, it's like, oh, it sounds much more impressive than it really is, and so it gets blown out of proportions. You get like Steins Gate goes into a lot of like Schrodinger's cat kind of stuff.
How many of them talk about gremlins in TV tubes?
Oh, Brawn Tubes. I think this is the only one I've heard talk about Brawn Tubes or Hempel's Raven.
Okay.
So we also got some fantastic memes on the Discord. Ash, I believe Ash may have made this one, posted the SpongeBob meme of Squidward dressed as Eva laying flowers on a grave that says, "Here lies Eva's hopes and dreams." It is fantastic.
That's really good.
I cackled out loud when I saw that in the Discord. It's so good.
And then recently, from the last episode, Arkzal also posted the Hello Human Resources meme, comparing Phoenix Wright bumbling his way through court cases with no idea what he's doing in Ace Attorney to Battler doing so in Umineko and getting like so much more shit for it. So very accurate, and we very much appreciate y'all bringing some humor into our Discord.
Yeah, bring on the levity. That's what I live for. If that's not obvious.
We also got On to Henry on YouTube. I believe this was to Becca. Warms my heart to see a fellow siesta enjoyer.
I feel so bad now having like mentioned them as my random third least favorite, but it's just really because I don't have one. I still enjoy them. I enjoy their weird little lesbian thing they got going on. I don't know. Their little neural link, their bow that they both use together. It's very much that meme that's like, boss, you don't have to do everything together, us. And it's like two people doing like the same task together. Have you guys seen this? You know what I'm talking about? Where it's like two people doing a very simple task, but together because they're so codependent that they have to do everything together. I have to find examples of this meme for you because that's the Chester sisters to a T.
Oh, wow.
Excellent. They're just roommates, Becca. I don't know what you're talking about.
Gal pals.
We just live together because it's more economical.
And they were roommates.
Oh, here's a fantastic one. This was from Yarn Witch on Discord. Back in episode 1, Battler points out how Hideyoshi speaks in a Kansai dialect, even though he isn't from Kansai, and swaps to normal Japanese when he's around people from Kansai. But on his own family, even when he's alone with Eva, he still uses that accent. I don't know if Rikishi really meant anything by it beyond making him stand out as a character, but the implication that he's never truly himself, even when he's only around family, is there.
I love this theory. I love this theory so much.
Ooh.
Because we as English speakers are never going to pick up on it, but it just like gives that implication of, something is off about who this person claims to be.
Yeah, I wonder, like, because, like, this as a, like, imagining from, like, an English perspective, this is a crazy thing to do, right? It'd be like if you faked having a Southern accent your whole life, like, all the time. Like, is this, in Japanese, is that, like, less weird, or is it still crazy weird that he does this?
Yeah, like, you can't even, like, call it code switching, because if he was code switching, it would match what the family speaks more.
Yeah.
It's like some kind of weird reverse code switching, because when he's around people that are from that region, what is that? What trauma is that? Somebody tell us. Like, why does he do that?
He says he does it because it, like, helps him stand out in the business world, but yeah, that doesn't explain why he's still doing it when he's with his family.
I mean,
unless he's just, like, so used to doing it that he's just like, that's just my accent now, unless I deliberately try not to.
Wow. I mean, that doesn't fly in the business world in most parts of the world. Maybe that is the way it is or was in Japan in the 80s.
People did crazy stuff in the 80s.
But typically in business, you need to not stand out in terms of things like your accent, because it can make you, like, I have a friend who from the north of England basically has an accent from that region. I'm not going to say which one because that's not fair on my friend, but has a specific accent from a region, and when they went to university they flattened it out so that they could get jobs elsewhere basically, and they did a lot of work on their accent and dialect in order to change it so that they would fit into the business world better.
Right.
So that just seems like such a shitty excuse to me. It's like a poor excuse, right? But yeah, that's crazy. And to think we all liked him.
It was the accent. I'm telling you, man. It works. Next up, we've got a comment from Ash on Discord. The extreme splitting off of Eva Beatrice makes me wonder if whatever mental thing she's got going on there is also what's going on with Maria's two sides. Too much attachment to magic as a human infecting you in some way and leaving you with separate pieces. From what we got in the Kyrie scene, it seems humans can have a degree of magic based on their attachment to one of the sins, so it wouldn't be too crazy for that to continue being able to have some level of corrupting force on a person.
That just like completely flew straight over my head, like for real.
Yeah, so is Maria separate, the way that she kind of sometimes switches into like a witchy mode, is that similar to the Eva Beatrice personality split?
Oh.
You think it's caused by something similar? And Ash is specifically saying that it's how much you have like taken magic into yourself, that magic somehow corrupts you in a way that splits you off from yourself.
Man.
Yeah, I think that one's interesting just because it's kind of a high level theory. We'll have to see how it plays out because I don't know. Like that definitely could be true. I mean, I know, but I have to pretend I don't know.
Yeah, I don't.
Man, that must be so hard for you.
Yeah, everyone pour one out for Kyle.
I think it's interesting. I don't really have an opinion on it either way. I think it would be cool. I'm interested to see if that bears any fruit.
Mm-hmm. And we had another comment from Ash on Discord saying, out of all the people I could have guessed might end up learning magic with Beatrice, I can safely say that George wouldn't have been high on my list of likely options.
Mm-hmm.
Same.
Which I think we all can agree on.
So true. Oh, so on that point, right? One of the things that I think would have, if I was on Team Mystery for the explanation for that, is that it was like a Romeo and Juliet, but like obviously Juliet's poison was real. So like
okay.
George came across Shannon's deceased body and took his own life as part of if I was on the mystery team and not the magical team.
Mm.
Yeah, I could see that. Definitely could see that.
Let's see. We got Cotter003 on YouTube. A shout out for Active Pain playing at the end of episode 3, the credits where Ange like jumps off the building, being such a hype song. Absolutely. Active Pain is a fantastic song.
Becca, I'm curious, do they use the same music in the anime?
They do. They use a lot of the same music in the anime. It rules. I mean, honestly, I think that the anime's biggest strengths are that they use so much of the sound design from the VN. Because I think in the VN, especially given that y'all are using the mod, like the visual art isn't the highlight. It's really all of the effort they put into the voice acting and the music and the sound effects. And they do have a lot of, I think the anime uses a lot of the same voice actors as well. I haven't actually looked it up to confirm, but I'm pretty sure Beato is the same person because she's crazy. Yeah. Love her.
Mm-hmm, I believe so. Arxol on Discord, Beatrice's expressions before the twist reveal is something I think should be talked about. She looked like she was contemplating something and looked conflicted, in my opinion. And I've got a link that shows just a part of our video that kind of shows a couple of those expressions right before she switches to her witchy one. If you want to quickly take a look at that to see what we're talking about.
I didn't have this read in the moment, but looking at it, I see it, and I don't disagree. Especially with the context that we know that she's under Lambdadelta's thumb. So it's like, what is she actually trying to accomplish here? We don't know. I don't even know if she knows.
Oh, I missed that completely. You're so right. She does look conflicted. Oh!
Yeah, you get a lot of really great facial expressions during a lot of key part, especially like also during the Lambdadelta mask off scene. You get to see a lot of like some unique expressions from Beatrice. There's a scene, for example, a part in there where she's like still holding up her witch kind of like, oh, like I'm still friends with you, and then Lambda's like, fucking stop that, I'm your boss. You don't get to take that tongue with me. And then her face like immediately switches to being very sad and passive looking, and then Lambda's like, ew. Go ahead and keep the affectation because that sucks.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that whole exchange was eye-opening.
To go back to the whole social work psychology thing, like, is typically like a lot of heavy masking, where what people who do that want is to be accepted and loved and all that. But I'm gonna be sad if the whole narrative is just a story these girls are telling each other to work through their trauma.
Really? Oh no, I love it.
I don't know.
All right, and we have one final comment. This is from Erasato5552 on YouTube. I think by this point you were given all the tools to dismantling the illusion of the witch, but not all clues to solve the mystery.
How dare you? There is no witch illusion. Witches are real.
Magic's real.
Beatrice is real. Okay?
Beatrice is real and strong and my friend.
She is. I agree. She is your friend, Becca.
Thank you.
I'm so incensed. I mean, yes, absolutely, definitely, but no, how dare you?
Okay, so next week, we'll be starting episode 4 of Umineko, Alliance of the Golden Witch, with about 3.5 hours of reading, ending on the line, there I will make a great announcement regarding the succession of the head. I will resolve your foolish quarrel myself. After which, the clock advances from 3:24 p.m. to 6:07 p.m., which is videos 54 through 57 of the YouTube playlist. So going into episode 4, I do want to give a quick a trigger warning, I guess, is kind of what I'm getting at here. Episode 4 has some very heavy themes of child abuse. It's a very sad episode. It's not one that I like to revisit a lot because it can be a lot. So I just want to give a heads up to anyone who is about to read this, Capelli in particular, that this is a very heavy set of reading we're about to do. Not necessarily this particular set that we're about to go into, but episode 4 as a whole is definitely one that might be a bit tricky. So you're absolutely, Capelli in particular, you can let me know if it's too much, and I can always just give you summaries or whatever we need to do to make this work for you. Because I don't want to make you have to sit through something that actively hurts you to read, which might be the case here. Up to you. So we'll see.
Yay!
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry to temper your excitement to go and read more. It's still very good and very interesting.
Yeah, it's fine. I think if I brace myself, I'll be okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for the heads up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely is something that is it's a lot. So definitely don't want our readers to be injured.
Oh man, how could it possibly get? I mean, I know how it could get worse, but
Yeah.
Within the context of what he's saying, how could the child abuse get more triggering?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we've all had some theories on where Maria came from. If that
You have had a theory on that, yes.
we've all kind of shared it, and we're like, I could see it, and if that is the truth, depends how they do it.
Ugh.
Well,
No. That I might be the one to tap out if it's what I think I said it was.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I'm not gonna give you any more information. I just wanted to make sure that you're knowing that there's gonna be some rough times ahead. But thank you all for joining us. I hope you continue to read along with us and continue to send us your theories and your thoughts and your memes, especially. Join us in the Off-Meta Discord, where we continue to discuss things as we read them, and we respond to people who have posted there in addition to the stuff we've read here. So it's a lot of fun, and we're having a good time reading through it. I hope you are as well. So thank you for joining us, and remember to think off meta.